Direct mail is great when it works and expensive when it doesn't. So we changed all of our events from direct mail to cold call because there's no cost of entry. We're all already paying AT&T.
The best land investors, from my perspective, are problem solvers. And they're not just solving problems for themselves, they're solving problems for the sellers as well.
People that own land, they know when they hear an accent what's going on. They know that that person isn't going to be buying the property themselves. Really more salt of the earth people. They're a little blue collary, right? So they want you to have a blue collar vibe.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Super pumped to have Nick here today. Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've obviously done a lot together these last couple months, excited about the partnership, everything like that. And like I've said over and over, like it's because your experience, your knowledge of this business model has been a huge asset to people in our community. And I know people are excited to hear this podcast for sure. Yeah, tell us. I actually don't know. So Nick, you own a cold calling agency essentially. So you cold call for land flippers a lot. Obviously, you do some house stuff as well, but let's focus on the land today. So you do a lot of that. You own an agency of cold callers essentially. I actually don't know the backstory, Nick. How'd you actually end up getting into that field of work?
Yeah, so I'll try to give you the shortest version possible, and that's not always my strongest suit. But you know, I was a restaurant manager for 13 years, okay? And I was amazing, right? Yeah, I was really next level. I created a lot of systems and processes. Then they made me an area manager. Little did I know that just meant I make the same but work way more, okay? That's all I did, you know? So then I became an area manager. And then I'm having every other restaurant using my system. So I have now like 7 restaurants using my specific systems and processes. Then, as I looked around, I hated everyone that I worked for. You know, just got like, my boss was overworked and his boss was an overworked and then one day I was like, if I don't want to be this guy, what am I doing here? Right? True story. And I'm sure a lot of people watching right now are relating to this. I have a very blue collar story. You know, I was working 70 hours a week in the restaurant industry. I was making salary. So it wasn't like overtime, no overtime. Yeah. Never made overtime in my freaking life, right? I was just getting grinded to the bone. So I knew I was better than my environment was step one. So I left that. I was applying for jobs and I ended up applying for a job for a company that taught people how to invest in houses. Now, I had no idea what that meant. I'd been flipping burgers for 13 years, right? I mean, like, real estate as a business, what? I'm just looking for a job. Get me out of the restaurant industry. And I worked, and that was awesome. So my first weekend, I'm throwing an event for real estate investors. They paid $20,000 per person to be there. And it's my job, my very first 2 days on the job. I'm in Orlando. I'm throwing the event. I'm setting up the tables, getting the slides figured out, just doing all this stuff. And I was like, what is happening here? I could tell there was money everywhere, right? The students are paying a lot of money. We're talking about houses that cost a lot of money. The experts are in teaching things that make them even more money. And I was like, where am I? Right. So I stuck with that job for 3 years. I was within 10 months of throwing their events. That's what I was originally hired for. Within 10 months, I got promoted to an executive to be the director of fulfillment. So I was then responsible for every client that paid them, right? A lot of people, because of my energy, they think I'm a sales guy. I'm not a sales guy. I'm a service guy. Right? So fulfillment means I didn't sell, but whatever they were sold, it was my job to show up and make sure it was delivered. Okay. That's what fulfillment means. So this was unique for me. So now I'm an executive and there's 700 real estate investing people a year signing up for this mentorship program that I'm running. Okay. So I'm talking to these people day in and day out and day in, and direct mail. It's just direct mail is great when it works and expensive when it doesn't, right? And this coaching program was in excess of $20,000, okay? So people were already spending their life savings signing up for it, and then their first mission was to drop 5K in direct mail, all right? So they were dropping 5K in direct mail, and they weren't great at it, so they weren't doing great with that 5K investment, right? And then they were going broke quickly, so through this, I created cold calling as a solution for this place. I was like, well, we need to teach everyone to cold call. It's free. We need to teach them all to cold call. So we changed all of our events from direct mail to cold call, and because there's no cost of entry, we're all already paying AT&T. I wasn't even teaching them to get a dialer. I was hand dial and call the lead is what we were teaching, right? So anyways, that totally took off. People started getting very successful with no money going out. And that's what was important. They were doing it themselves. It was very labor intensive. It was skill intensive, but it wasn't financially intensive. So it solved our problem of our client that didn't have as much money to put all the money into direct mail. Then we're almost done. When that job came to an end, I saw direct mail work so good. So I was like, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna be an investor. I can do this, you know? And I went home and I cold called every day for 3 months. And one thing I did differently that caused me to be a lead generator other than a real estate investor is I went live every day on Facebook and cold called. So what that did was all these people were watching me every day. I didn't even realize that. But all these people were watching me every day. At the end of those 3 months, I had 5 people offer to pay me to cold call for them. And that is actually how my company was born. It was born completely by accident. And I'm making like $1,500 a week to work like 3 hours a week to cold call for other investors. And then I just turned that into the big business that I have today by accident.
It's a very organic way to start a business. Obviously, like you saw what you didn't like in the business of like direct mail and stuff. Like you said, like it's great when it works, and it's frustrating and expensive when it doesn't work. And you saw what works, I guess, just from experience, everything like that. And then you made calls yourself. You said you weren't a salesperson though, like being on the phone every day for as long as you were. Was that a grind? Like, what? Talk about some of those learning lessons when you were first doing that. And so you were doing this 3 months by yourself. You were just doing real estate investing by yourself. Is that correct?
So me and one of the people that I met through that coaching company decided to partner up.
Got it.
Right. So I was a lead generator and he was the closer. Okay. And this guy, one thing that gave me my edge is he was a New York stockbroker for 20 years. So what we would do is I would hop on Zoom every day and meet with him for 5 hours a day, and I would cold call live in front of him. And then he's in the background making fun of me while I'm cold calling. I actually have these videos on my YouTube channel. They're very old, so you have to keep going down. But I actually have my first 20 days of cold calling with this guy making fun of me at the same exact time. Okay. And so he's talking, the homeowner's yelling at me, right? It was actually a lot of fun for me. But I can tell you that him showing up every day, I got to give him some props, Chris Marnalego. Him showing up every day allowed me to show up every day. You know, I'll be honest with you, like you and your brother, I'm sure you guys motivate each other quite a bit to come into work every day. And with him being there, I showed up every day. We had fun. We made it exciting. We're making fun of each other. We were both have that like New York vibe, you know, so he was a big piece of that. But I can tell everyone this, I know how scary it is to make your first calls. I have mine posted. My first 18 days of cold calling ever are on my YouTube channel. And you're horrible. You're absolutely horrible at first. Now, one thing I did, Ron, that made me next level is every day, remember I told you I was on Zoom. So every day at the end of the day, I would take my Zoom recording and I would watch myself back.
Wow.
And when you suck at something, bro, it is so hard to watch yourself do something you suck at. And I did that literally. So I'd call for 5 hours a day and I'd watch myself for 4 hours a day. And what I would do in that 4 hours, I'm a big computer nerd, is I would make little clips of every call that I made. So I would turn each call into a clip and I would name it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got so good so fast is because I didn't just call, I call and then I coached myself to be a better cold caller all at the same time.
So you and Chris were like partnering on deals. Like, what was the relationship like? Is you guys partnering on deals or you were just getting him leads? What was that relationship like between?
It was supposed to be 50-50.
Yeah.
At the end of my first month, I had 75 leads and we had no closings. At the end of my second month, I had 150 leads and we had no closings. Okay. And I was like, okay, this isn't working out. You know, then people started paying me to cold call for them. And just like all of us, we have to pursue wherever the
Yeah.
money's coming from. You know what I mean? So the original agreement was 50-50. We'll do this. Now, Chris, he was a student inside of this coaching program. So I did not find a super seasoned real estate investor to cuddle up next to. Instead, I found someone who was actually probably my best friend at the time, who also wanted to do real estate. So, I didn't get mad at him, or I didn't think he didn't perform. Like I said, I didn't meet someone who was like closing 10 deals a month and I would start cold calling for
Yeah.
him, right? He was closing 0 deals. I showed up. He still closed the 0 deals.
And you to give you credit, like you doubled down on your skill set. Like your skill set is getting people leads via cold calling, and that's what you doubled down on. Like you can help a lot of people doing that, even if you're not taking down real estate deals.
Right.
Like a lot of people, like you obviously have the skill set and you have the track record to go behind you. So what did that look like? So you said you had 3 people. Were you doing everything yourself?
Yes.
You were just doing cold calling all day, or what was that volume like?
Yeah, all day, every day. So I was dialing 300 to 600 dials a day. And a little hint I'll give everybody is when I create goals for myself, I create 2 goals. I create a minimum goal and I create a champion goal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My minimum goal is I got to do 300 dials a day or I'm a piece of okay. I'm not doing my job. I'm not putting in enough effort. But if I do 600, I could like take myself out to dinner. I could like celebrate. I could be like, Nick, you crushed it today, bro. So everything I do, I create 2 goals for myself. So every day I dial 300 to 600 dials a day. And you're right. And staying in I actually just had a tip that I posted years ago. And it was like, staying in your lane is the only way to always be right. Okay? Only when we go and jump lanes do we find ourselves being wrong. And that's exactly what I did. I was an awesome lead generator and I stuck with it. And I was my only employee for my first 3 months. We did over $200,000 in sales and I was the only employee at Lead Mining.
Yep.
I'm pulling the records, I'm skip tracing them, I'm doing the calls, and then I have this great tracking system behind the scenes. I'm moving the numbers over and tracking. And one day I'm so overwhelmed and I just break down, right? It's the best kind of breakdown you could have because I'm so busy. It's not like I'm not busy, right? But I just break down, I start crying, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need a team. And then I hired my first VA. And I'll give everyone a tip right now. What does your first VA do? They do everything you do not want to do. That's the first thing. So I had the VA doing the invoices, updating the spreadsheets. Another tip for everyone is do not put a virtual assistant on the phone unless you absolutely have to. That is the quickest way to kill your business, just finding a $3, $5 an hour VA and sticking them on the phone. They are here to do administrative work to start. Okay. And so they did all the administrative work. I stayed on the phone. I stayed calling for 3 more months. And then I hired a team of 6 cold callers. And then 3 of them actually stayed with me for 4 years. So my first 6 employees, 3 stayed for 4 years.
And this is 4 years ago. Is this when all this time period is?
This was 8 years ago.
Oh, that's 8 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you had your first. Wow, that's crazy that they stayed there that long. That's a difficult thing, obviously, to keep people, especially in something like an outbound sales role. Like it is not easy, I'm sure, to keep people. So now, fast forward today, you have 8 full-time cold callers, and it grew organically. I'm sure a lot. I'm sure you do ads and everything now. But let's talk about like how you're helping land investors. Like what does that look like? Because you guys are making such a high volume of cold calls. How has your business changed over the last, obviously it's changed a ton over the last 8 years, but what are you guys doing today? Like what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, what you guys are doing for land investors?
Yeah, so from start to finish, a land investor comes to us and they go, hey, I'm in this county and I want all the properties 0 to 20 acres, right? Just at face value. First thing we do is we pull all their records for them. Using Land Portal with you guys, which is awesome. We scrub out wetlands, we scrub out landlocked, we scrub out all those guys thanks to your software. Then after that, we skip trace everything, and then I stick an American cold caller on the phone for them, right? And I think that's the big benefit, you know. People that own land, you know, they know when they hear an accent what's going on. They know that person isn't going to be buying the property themselves. And because they own the land, they're really more salt of the earth people. They're a little blue collary, right? Mm-hmm. So they want you to have a blue collar vibe too, right? So I think having the American on the phone really helps to have someone that they can relate to. We call everyone. Our script is super direct. I recommend to everyone, don't beat around the bush. Get in there, be super direct. Our first two lines are, um, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the owner of the 3 acre property in Galveston, Texas." "Oh yeah, yeah, that's me." "Oh great. Well, my name's Nicholas. And have you ever considered selling before?" Right? So no beating around the bush, right to it. We all want to be respected. And then if they say yes, we go right into our qualifying questions, which is all due diligence, utilities, landlocked, surveys, what they wanted to do with the property, stuff like that, to give our clients some base knowledge before they go in to the property. But yeah, so we pull the list, we skip it, we call it, and then we text it. And
Mm.
then we send everything over to the client the second that it's generated. And then I think one thing I do that's above and beyond is not only do I send my clients the leads, I actually send them the script and what to say to the leads when they call them. Like we just spoke about being in business for 8 years, I've learned a lot. So I tell all my clients, hey, don't learn the hard way. Just use this script. And you don't
Mm.
have to use the script to a T, but you should read it. I promise you're going to steal some stuff from it and then implement that into your business.
So what does a lead look like when it gets to a land investor? So a land investor hires you to make some cold calls. Let's say they make 1,000 cold calls and you get 20 leads or something. What do those leads look like? How much information do they get on what your conversation was? Like how interested is that potential seller?
Well, this is actually, so I didn't realize this is one of our strong suits. So a lot of my competition, I've recently heard, they just send over the lead. All the clients know is it was a yes, right? They have no idea what was said. What we do is we send over everything we have: name, address, phone number, acreage, APN number, right? So we send everything over to the client, and then we send all the questions we asked and all the answers that they gave. So every question will be there. And even if they don't give us an answer, you'll still see the question. So one of my clients was like, hey, can I get the script? I'm like, hey, the script is in every lead. If you think about it, we post every question in our leads and my team types in their answers. Okay. Then on top of that, we have another section that people love. We call it rapport notes. Okay. So this is like, what else did we talk about that could help you? Did he say his wife was sick? Did he say that, he's got a hoarder on the property? Did he say that he has an endangered owl that he has to get rid of, right? So like those aren't in the questions. So what else came up? So we have another section on top of all of our 12 questions that actually give them an insight. And then you also know our cold caller's name. And that is really important because, oh, you can now call them and say, hey, you spoke to Sherry
Mm.
about the 3 acre property. Oh, yeah, yeah, Sherry. And by the way, my callers are so good that they're not they're not grumpy. So most of the leads that we come off the phone with are going to have a pleasurable experience with us. So leveraging that, oh, you spoke to Sherry? Oh, yeah, yeah, she was so sweet. Yeah, isn't she great? Like there's going to be something because I train my people to be pleasant on the phone. We're not just, and we've all heard the cold caller. Yes, no, like the cold
Yeah.
caller is being super dry. We are not dry. We are energetic. We're literally like providing customer service is almost the energy we bring to the seller as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the value in that, like cold callers, and I've listened to we've used answering services for our direct mail and stuff, and other outbound ways to get leads, and then listening to on inbound calls, even the answering service are like dry and like
Dry.
not getting anything out of them. There's no rapport or anything like that. So obviously, like hitting that the seller's first how they first
Impression.
interact with you
Right.
guys, their first impression. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. Their first impression with you guys or with whoever it is like very important. Like, so you can relay back to that. It's gonna be in their brain. Like, if you meet Nick, like you're not like I don't know anything. Like Nick's got crazy
Lovely.
energy. Like you're gonna you're gonna have things to say about Nick in terms of
Right.
for good, better, or worse. But you're always gonna say he's got energy, he's passionate, everything like that. Like you want to have
It's not
some kind of
forgettable.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And an or I don't want to say unforgettable, but like an impression that is an actual impression, not just like, yeah, I really don't remember. That was just another phone call.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I love that you said that. So my people report. So when they ask the biggest difference between American and foreign callers, it's not the accent. "Oh, what's the accent like?" It's not the accent. Americans have accents. Right? People say I have an accent. I sound like I'm from New England. I'm not from New England. Okay? My parents were, so that's probably why that's there. But my point is, we all have an accent. What matters with the foreign caller is two things. One, that they understand what's being said to them. That's the thing is, they can speak very clearly, but do they know the words that are being said to them? So that's the first thing. The next thing is, it being an American starts you off with a level of rapport that you would have never had before. Okay. And that's really what's important. Um, our team, I've seen when the Americans call, my clients get more leads on the phone. Does that make sense? So when they call the lead back, that lead takes you more seriously because you put an American on the phone. And I'll give you a perfect example. 20 minutes ago, my phone rings. I'm very busy today, right? Just in general. And my phone rings and I pick up. Yes, Mr. Nick, this is, yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't even, I don't really have time to talk right now. I didn't even let her finish. But I could tell by her accent already, it's not important. Like, whoever told you to call me at $3 an hour, I don't really have to sit through that right now but if it was an American, I'd be like, yeah, what's this about? What are we talking about? So I think we often forget that piece of the puzzle that is really what's the distinction of the American versus the foreign over the accent.
Mm-hmm. Like the subconscious stuff for sure. Like there's subconscious that goes into it. Again, for good, better, or worse. Like there just is like there's things that are programmed currently. But let's get into like what lead volume looks like. I know we talked about it last night, but a lot of people who are listening here are the first time seeing you. So let's treat it just like everyone who's listening the first time they're hearing Nick about all this. So someone, let's say every 1,000, a list of 1,000 property records, essentially. What can they expect? Like, what is a normal return? What are the normal results for something like 1,000 property records that you guys are cold calling?
So with us, 1,000 properties is 3 touches to us. I'll break that down first, okay? So 1,000 properties is 2,000 dials and 1,000 text messages. Mm-hmm. And that's 3 touches. So it's 2,000 dials. So we call everyone twice if they don't answer, okay? And then we text message them. So that 1,000 for us is 3,000. So that's an important thing to also remember when I give you these numbers, okay? So on a great land campaign, we will generate 1 lead in every 100 to 150 dials, which means 2,000 dials on 1,000 records could be as many as 20 leads. Just on that alone, if you're in a good market. The closer you are to a metro area, the lower that's going to be. It's really as simple as that. If you're in Atlanta, you're not getting that. If you're 4 counties away from Atlanta, you might be getting that, right? So it's just to let everyone know it's not blanketed across everywhere. But best results, 100 to 150 dials, and every record equals 2 dials. So 1,000 records would yield about 20 leads, best case, and I would say 8 leads, worst case, right, is really what we expect. Maybe we're in that Atlanta style market or we're closer to the metro, right? You still should be getting 1 in about every 300 dials, worst case beyond that. Then text messaging. Text messaging is pretty bananas. The results we get on text messaging. Text messaging, we can often get a lead. This is going to sound crazy. In every 50 to 100 text messages, which is wild. Now, our text messaging, we've got it down pat. We don't have a reply stop to opt out, and that benefits you. Again, that reply stop to opt out not being there makes them think that you're being more respectful. Whenever anyone sees reply stop to opt out, they know you have a computer sending that, right? That's, again, rapport loss, okay, that we're getting there. So we don't have that message. So our texting probably goes a little further than what other people may have experienced. But I would say on those 1,000 records, you should expect from us anywhere from 20 to 40 leads is what I tell my clients.
Now, what are they, if they're doing their job? Well, let's say you have a middle of the pack land investor. They're doing, let's say, a deal every 2 months, whatever it is. And what are their expectations? Like if they're middle of the pack, they're not the best salesperson, the person on the phone, they're not the worst. Like what should they be expecting from those leads? What does that look like in terms of leads to deals?
So for land, in my honest opinion, you should be closing 1 in 20. And that is worst case scenario. Maybe the first one's 30. But after the first 30, it's 1 in 20 after that. And that's really just you believing in yourself, or maybe you getting the reps down, or you learning as you go, right? But I can tell everyone that I have an acquisition process. And I just had a call with the client today. Nick, we used you 2 months ago. I got a bunch of leads, but I'll share the conversation with you because it's right where we go. We got a bunch of leads, but nothing came out of it. And now I'm wondering, should I use direct mail or should I use you guys or what? I said, and he goes, I just don't want to spend time working these leads that aren't good. Okay. And you know what I said to him? I said, I mean this with love. But did you know every customer that tells me they only want to work the hottest leads close the least amount of deals? Okay. And it's like, yeah, I get it. We all only want to work the hottest. Yeah, duh.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that the case? But what matters isn't the leads. And this is what I try to stress to people, which is why I'm bringing it up now. It matters the way you handle the leads. If you get every lead and say, that lead sucks, that lead sucks, that lead sucks, you know what? You're not going to have any leads at the end of the day. So here's my solution to that. Okay. Now I walked this customer through this today. You need a lead grading system. Leads are going to come in all over the spectrum. Okay. All over the spectrum. So you need to grade them A through D. All right. Now that helps you prioritize your time. Another one of my favorite sayings is everyone hates leads until there's no leads. Right? Well, hey, where's that pile of leads we had lying around all of a sudden, right? So, when the leads first come in, yeah, focus on the A's, the B's, and the C's in that order. But if they don't look like they're worth your time, the day you have 0 new leads, that's the day you work those leads. So I think what's more important and what gets you 1 in 20 is making sure that you have a process and you execute that process on every lead. And nowhere in that process is I don't call leads if they look. Nowhere in the process do we say that. Now, what I tell people is every lead's worth 2 to 5 minutes of your time. You're allowed to call it after you speak to them. Okay, you do not call it before you speak to them. It's kind of like my rule with my people. And what happens is people, they prejudge a lead and they decide not to call it, and then they see lesser results. But if you call every lead, I'm sorry, last time I'll harp on it, but it's that as a lead generator, it's the most important thing I do is make sure my clients call the leads that I send them, right? And if you call every lead and you execute a system every time on that lead, I guarantee you will be closing 1 in 20.
Mm-hmm.
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
No, that makes a ton of sense, and we see it all the time with people like why not call them? Like, what are you that busy where you can't make a phone call for 2 minutes or whatever it is? Like, there's just no reason. Like that phone call can be worth 10, 15, 20, $50,000. Like you don't know what's going to come out of those leads. Doesn't matter. I've made money on really bad land, and so many people have made money on and not the best land or not the best motivated people. Like part of a land investor, and the best land investors from my perspective are problem solvers, and they're not just solving problems for themselves, they're solving problems for the sellers as well. Like, okay, yeah, maybe it's not a traditional buy for $30,000, sell for $60,000, whatever. All right, let's see if we can find a solution, whether it's double closing, seller financing, some kind of solution. Not every deal is going to work out, but if you attack every deal with like a problem solver mindset,
right,
you're going to get 2 deals out of every 20 probably, I'm sure.
Yeah, I heard it the other day, and it was sales is solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if the only problem you're trying to solve is you're broke, that is not the problem to make the sale, right? It's like what? And so another little nugget we'll share with people is some people think they have to improve the land themselves before they sell it. Oh, I got to add utilities before actually, that's our specialty. What happens is people have silent agreements with themselves. They think they have to do something before the property's able to be sold. So one thing I also encourage my clients is get to the bottom of what's going on and then solve from there. But if you just throw out a solution, like one of my favorite sayings, I have a lot of sayings, I'm sure you can tell, but is even a great offer too early is a bad offer. Okay. And people forget about that. If you don't have that rapport, don't believe me, go out on a date with someone and try to kiss that person at the beginning of the date. That is too early. Well, you haven't even met yet. It's like the kiss happens at the end of the date once we trust each other. And so if you're making an offer too early, that's you going in for a kiss way too early in the process as well.
And the thing about it, like you've done this for so long, like 10, I don't know how many, do you know how many phone calls over time? Like hundreds of thousands, I'm sure, of phone calls.
I can tell you that we're averaging we're like 20,000 dials a day. Right
Oh my
now.
goodness.
And that's 5 days a week on average, which is 100,000 a week, which every 10 weeks I'm doing a mil. I'm doing a million dials every 10 weeks. I think 2 weeks, but every 10 weeks I'm doing a million dials would be a good way to look at it.
All right, Nick. So obviously with that volume of calls, you guys are doing 20,000 a day, you said a million every 10 weeks. Like there's high stakes. Each like little changes can make a ton of difference in like the business. Like how often are you tweaking scripts, tweaking different suggestions maybe from your outbound team? Like how often are you like analyzing that, making changes to potentially just, if you just improve 1%, never.
And it's only because we've already done it, if that makes sense. So 8 years in business, so one cool thing about me, and anyone who calls me knows this, is they'll be like, Nick, why don't you try saying this instead? And I'm like, yeah, well, hey, we tried it. Doesn't work. Right. So the beauty of my personality type is I don't say no to everything. I say yes to everything. And then I gauge the results, if that makes sense. So like, I'll give you a couple examples just right off the bat. Hey, Nick, we just sent some direct mail out. This is very common. Hear this all the time. Why don't you call them and tell them we just sent some direct mail? Why don't you do that? That'll work great, right? It's like, no, it doesn't work great at all. Here's why. We've done it, first of all. Second of all, hey, how's it going? Yeah, so I sent you a piece of mail okay, I'll check my mail and I'll call it if I'm interested. Boop.
Yeah.
Every time. You'd be surprised. 60% of it's like they all know what to say. So it's like, and I remember I actually started saying that 8 years ago for me. I was like, this is a great idea. We'll reference the mail. This is going to go wonderfully, right? It doesn't. It hurts you. So there's a couple things I've done. Another example. Hey, why don't you tell them that you're calling from, landbuyerinterprises.com, right? And it says, well, one, when we do tell them that, here's what happens. America has a big culture of wanting you to hurt, okay? See my face when I say that? Like they want, like if that person's having a bad day, hey, this is Nick from landbuyers.com. Okay, I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to leave you a 1-star review. And you know what? I'm going to call back and I'm going to ask for your boss and I'm going to tell them what a horrible cold caller you were because I'm having a bad day, right? So there's certain things. And the good news about me is anyone could ask, hey, why don't you do this? And I can actually tell them it's not just no, it's here's what happened when I did do it, right? Mm-hmm. And we've learned so much over the years. But to answer the question in reverse, how many years were we open to when I was like, I'm no longer changing the script?
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like it's probably about 4. Now, very randomly, will a customer call me up and they'll say something brilliant. True story. Hey, Nick, you asked this question this way, but why don't you say it that way? And I'm like, dude, that's brilliant. But I warn them, I say, look, just so you know, I'm not just making this change for you. I'm making this change for every client that I have, right? Because I don't have a scalable business if I'm doing all these one-off crazy scripts, right? So I tell people, I say, if you want to change, call me, we'll talk about it. If I love it, I implement it system-wide. If I don't love it, I'll explain to you why we don't do it that way, and it's probably because we already have before and it didn't work.
That makes a ton of sense, and the data speaks for itself, and like you can't go backwards and like retest the thing that you just did and it didn't work a year ago, whenever that was. So that makes sense. How many people, or how does it work with you guys in terms of people who are trying to bring more specialized list. So if someone brings you a list of potential subdivides, it's the same thing. Like we're trying to find the intent of these sellers. Does
Yes.
that change anything from your guys, or is just like, okay, you just know like, okay, this is a little more, it's a subdivide targeted list. Is there anything different from you guys?
Yeah, there is. And that's a great, so another way to reframe your question is, when is a script change appropriate, right? Would be, and it's exactly what you said. When we have a specialized list and it doesn't make sense to, because the other script is, hey, do you own this property? Have you ever considered selling? Right? Now, the beginning might be the same on a subdivide, but probably the qualifying questions are different, right?
Mm.
We wouldn't ask, maybe, we don't care if there's utilities because we're going to break it out into 40 different properties anyway. So, unless it has 40 different utilities, right? So, we do custom scripts and script changes when the list is super niche or requires a different approach. Like, for example, an easy example would be like for houses and FISBO, right? If someone sent us a FISBO list, we wouldn't call a for sale by owner list and say, hey, have you ever considered selling?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, dude, it's for sale right now. So there are definitely, when the list changes, we do adapt to a script to that. But if you're like, hey, I'm looking for land 0 to 20 acres, what's the script? We send them our script, for example. But if they're like, hey, I'm doing something unique, can you accommodate? Yes. And what I do for free is I will actually help my clients create that custom script,
Mm.
right? I mean, we have both have skin in the game here. I want them
Yep.
to be successful. And so I get involved with that for free as well.
So what, shoot, I had a question on the top of my head and now I forget. So what kind of success stories have you heard from those kind of, have you had a lot with those more custom, like subdivide, whatever it is, or not much?
No, so the irony of, and don't get me wrong, they don't happen all the time, but the irony of a lot of the nichier stuff, and again, I'll just go back to houses. Oh man, I got this super hot pre-foreclosure list, dude. Like all these people, they're about to lose their home. They're definitely rather sell to me than lose their home. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. I can't explain it. I can't explain. I don't know, and people in pre-foreclosure don't think they're going to lose the house, so they don't sell it. So I noticed that sometimes, like, and we do great. Like we do have a guy right now who is doing subdivides. It's like 50 to 400 acres is all he's pulling, and we are just executing like our standard script for the most part, and it's going really well for him. Land, the good news is land is so simple. Houses is where things get like really squirrely. Like I said, with FISBOs or pre-foreclosures or probate, now the person's dead and all this other stuff. But one of the perks of land is there's not that many chains for us to break off. But I don't really have like any super notable
Yeah.
success stories from like a super customized approach. And that's really just speaks to being direct is often just the best thing to do. Like people used to send me custom scripts and say this, and like the first paragraph is like 8 sentences. I'm like, we're not saying that. That person's hanging up on us before we even get through that. If that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. What's your business look like in terms of land versus house investors? How does that weigh out?
I feel like we're probably 70% land now.
Okay.
But for our first 6 years, we were 100% houses, and then land blew up. Joe McCall hired us to do text messaging, and he closed 2 deals on a $500 texting order. And then he invited me on his podcast, and then like, bam, it's like, we're in land, baby. And then it's kind of been a windfall. Then since then, I've kind of, I don't want to say specialized because I still do land. I do other industries, as well. We're like in insurance, but I would say that it's like land, let's say land 65, houses is 30, and then other industries is like the last 5%, like of our makeup.
So what's the structure of when someone orders, let's go 1,000 property records again. Like they want 1,000 to be cold called. That's 3,000 touches, you said.
Yeah.
Is that one person that's cold calling all of them, or how is that kind of situated? Or do you just have a long list that people just get through, and like your list is being touched by different people?
Yeah, this is an in-depth answer I'm gonna give you because a lot of people they don't. So I run my company like Uber. And I think that's the best way to describe it. Now, Uber doesn't have one driver in each market, right? Who takes all the work and does everything. Instead, Uber has a guy who, when he logs in, he starts getting dinged, right? He can log out whenever he wants to. He's in full control. Uber doesn't pay very well, and it's definitely not a lot of fun. However, everyone who does it feels like an entrepreneur because they have time freedom, because they control when they're Ubering or not. Okay. So I'll just give you those bases of Uber real quick. Cold calling is the same. Arguably one of the worst jobs in the world. Okay. Right. And what I do to combat that, so my team has extremely high morale, is I let my employees work whenever they want to. I do not write a single schedule for a single one of my employees. Okay. They work whenever they want to. Morale goes through the roof. Okay. If anyone at Uber was like, hey, Jimmy, where are you at? The guy at the airport says he needs you. Why aren't you over there? That's called a cabbie, right? That's now a taxi driver, right? You know, that job died for a reason because that sucks. Okay. But giving them the time freedom is really important. So the way I manage that with my clients, just like Uber, no one's driving for Uber that has less than 4 stars. Okay. Well, what I do at Lead Mining is I have about 30 cold callers in total. 15 American and 15 foreign would be like a good split. Okay. Then each of the employees on my roster have to perform at a minimum level to even be on the team. So my average employee has to generate 1 lead in every 300 dials, or they are not even allowed to work for me. So the way I handle what your question was, which is how many people do I get, is you get the dials completed by one or potentially many of my proven qualified cold callers. But I put them on a pre-vetting system. It's not like, and this is the problem with some of my competitors, and I'll explain real quick. If every time a customer hired me, I hired one person to work for them, there's not that many great cold callers in this world. Okay, first and foremost. So if I had to hire one person and train them and develop them per customer that I had, I would not be in a scalable business. But because instead what I have is a team of seasoned Olympians or Navy SEALs or whatever you'd figure, and I just send them on all the missions, right? So this helps me not have to hire, and like we said, some people have been with me for 7 years now in my business, and my average employee is with me for about 4.5 before they move on, if they move on. But because I let my employees work whenever they want to, even if they go get their dream job, they might still cold call on Saturdays for me, because I offer that opportunity. You see, you kind of get how the whole system works now a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They can work whenever they want. And because I let them work whenever they want, I can't assign them callers. So instead, I make sure they're high-performing cold callers, and I say, here's all of my clients. Keep kicking is my strategy instead.
That's really, that makes a ton of sense. And from a customer's perspective, like, you get a wider range of people who are reaching out, which I like. I like that more than like you're happy with it or you're not happy. Like it's a mix, and everyone meets a certain standard that you're talking about.
Right.
So for you as a business owner, like, is that just kind of self-manage itself, and like they know that the jobs need to get done, and like they just allocate their time and it just works out? Or like, when do you know, like, I need to scale up to 3 more people?
I love these questions. Yeah. So my priority is that I have enough people on staff, right? Mm-hmm. Now I have reporting hand delivered to me every day. And when I see the dials drop that we're done for the day and the dials needed for the week are going up, I tell my team, hey, we got more work than what we're completing right now. And hey, let's get to work. If no one gets to work, I go, guys, I got to hire. If I got to hire, that means less hours for you in the future. So the cool thing about the culture I've created is I know a lot of people are like, how can you trust people to work whenever they want to? What's making them show up? You're right. It's very scary at first, but I'm 8 years into this culture, and the right employee comes in every day like, I need to get these dials in. I got to be the first to clock in. I got to be the first to generate leads. So what accidentally happens is I turn them into a pack of hungry wolves waiting to eat the dials every day, as opposed to, I don't really feel like working today. I'll work tomorrow. Well, if a bunch of people work today, there might not be work for you tomorrow. So you better get to work, right? So it's really cool how the culture shift occurs in my company. So now, after 8 years, I've got 15 hungry people. They're ready to work. And the irony of me is, when I run sales at Lead Mining, if I ever run sales, it's because my team needs more work to do, right? Because I have a responsibility to keep my great cold callers happy, right? So it's like, hey, we're looking slow this week and we've got 15 people willing to work. Well, hey, give it a big bonus on orders this week, to help keep my team busy so they don't get distracted and go work elsewhere.
That makes a ton of sense. I really, really like that. I'm sure it took some time to build out those systems, everything like that. So it's like kind of works itself. But yeah, just the mindset and the happiness of people who can like work on their own time. They're not set schedules. I'm sure that helps for sure. And like you said, the motivation is like, you don't want me to have to hire someone else and replace these hours, which makes so much sense. Outside of like the marketing, anything, or just cold calling, you've talked to so many land investors. You've talked to so many people that are like getting started in this business, everything like that. Like, what advice would you have for them? Just overarching advice for someone looking to get into land flipping, looking to get into this business model. And I also always like to ask people, like, is there a type of person who you think shouldn't be in this business in terms of land investing, land flipping?
So my answer to that question is, first of all, I do not believe that certain people can't do certain things. So I've worked with a couple of clients that train acquisition managers. I'll just give you a small example. And then we'll test that person like on like an aptitude test. And it says that they're not a self-starter. And that person will be like, well, I'm not hiring them as an acquisition manager. And I don't agree with that. Okay. Like, I agree, like, if we hate our current life enough, we're going to become whoever we need to become to do whatever the hell we need to do. So the second question is, who do you need to be a successful land investor? You just have to be tenacious, right? Nobody can stop you. You have to be relentless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anything else. But if you hear stop and you stop, then you are not cut out just to be an entrepreneur in general. Right? Because entrepreneur, you're going to hear stop 1,000 times, whether it's from the people you're cold calling telling you suck at cold calling, whether it's from someone cussing you out or someone, there's going to be a lot of resistance. So the ability to overcome resistance is really what the most important quality is. That is who I think anyone can invest in land as long as they have that quality. I don't care if you've been scared your whole life, if you don't have a track record of being tenacious, but you know what, your boss just cussed you out and you're like, you know what, dude? I'm going to do something different, okay? And you feel like being tenacious from that point forward, you are ready to be either an entrepreneur or an investor, okay? That's the first part. Now, I actually love the sequence I'm answering this in, because the advice I would give to every land investor is you better be tenacious, okay? If you get a lead and you read the lead and you, like I did earlier, hey, well, nope, that is not being tenacious. If you are relentless in your pursuit of these leads, you will do great. The number one indicator I've seen of success is a great attitude. I speak to customers all the time. My cell phone number is on the website. For any, you call that number, you get me. You get nobody else. Okay. And I talk to people all the time. The people that call me the happiest and have the best attitude always close deals. Dude, it's like magic. It's literally magical. The people that call me up and they go, I'm really skeptical. I'm really scared. Because that guy who's super skeptical gets a lead and he's really skeptical again. And then he calls a lead and he's really skeptical again. Then he goes to make an offer and he's really skeptical again. And every step along his way, he's creating roadblocks. Now, I just want to say to all that, I respect being skeptical. I actually could be more skeptical. I'm way too optimistic for my own good. Okay, I totally agree with that. However, we gotta watch our triggers that slow us down. So the number one thing that stops all investors from succeeding is they're not tenacious enough. They give up right before. It's that famous meme. I feel even silly, like the guy who's digging in the tunnel for the gold and he like quits. He's like one strike away. That's my theory. That's why I call back every lead. My joke to my clients is the lead I don't call back is the $50,000 lead. And I literally will lose sleep at night. And this is true. I don't know how my father raised me, but if I didn't do everything I could do in my power, I will literally roll around in bed and say, you should have done more. You could have done more. So everything I do in life is so it does not mess with my sleep. at the end of the night.
That's amazing. I love that advice. And like the skepticism is just like the dipping your toe in. I'm not a type of guy who, like, if you're going to try to do something, like, go and try to do something. You know what I mean? Like, don't like do this so you can say like, yeah, I tried this, it doesn't work. Because some people come into things like they have money, they have a lot of money to invest in this business, to start a business. They're like, yeah, I'm going to try this because other people are doing this, but they never really get in their brain like this is going to work. And it's never like they never convince themselves like I can actually do this. It's more so like I'm gonna try this so I can say I tried this. Big difference there. But Nick, I appreciate this. This has been an amazing conversation. You bring so much value to the listeners. Where can people find out more information about you, about what you do?
Yeah, so the best place is leadminingpros.com. I would definitely check that out. On there, my cell phone number is at the site, and there's even a way to follow me on Facebook. And it's not my business, it's me. So I post a lot of crazy fun stuff. So it's not just business stuff, but highly recommend you hit me up on Facebook. You can call the number on the site. One thing I like to share with everyone is I don't care if you're going to buy or not. Call me. Okay. I had a guy book a call with me and go, I'm not ready. I shouldn't have booked it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Let's talk. Like, and I think that's the old restaurant manager in me. You know how many people I've spoken to? I used to speak to 1,000 people a day, right? So I don't mind spending time with clients, but that's leadminingpros.com. And then anyone could also call me directly as well.
Awesome.
And I do want to share with everyone a coupon code that I created for you guys. That coupon code, it's all one word. It's Land Portal. And what that code does is it gives you a 10% bonus on every order. So if you give me $1,000 and I pretend like you gave me $1,100 and I do 10% more of everything that you buy. So it's more dials, more records, more text. And that code is also infinitely reusable. So just whoever's watching this, you're getting a 10% lifetime bonus at Lead Mining as long as you use that code every time.
Awesome, man. That's amazing. Again, Nick, I appreciate it so much, guys. Check him out, leadminingpros.com. Call his text him, connect with him. Nick is as a business owner, he is more open and available. I don't want to say available. That's not the right thing. You're a busy person for sure. But like you are more open to having conversations than really anyone that I've ever talked to. I love that so much. Other than that, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. We'll link Nick's website. We'll link Nick's YouTube channel below as well. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.